Imagine a novel that merges a stock market crash, an exploration of Turd, the serious mystery, ancient African civilizations, psychedelia, morality, Americana, Christianity, sexuality, and wordplay, and all in the second person. You're imagining Half Asleep in Frog Pajamas by Tom Robbins, an author my late high school English teacher introduced me to way back in my formative years. I generally love Robbins' works, which are all about expanding the bounds of bourgeois American life. They made me feel heard as a teenager, yearning for the revolutionary 60s, but stuck in the Bush era. The novel is trippy enough, but what sends it over the top is the feeling of Tom Robbins telling you your story, finding out that you are a Filipino-American financial whiz who has caught the eye of a stockbroker turned mystic who's just returned from Timbuktu, and so on. It's a fun ride, as is most of Robbins' work, but then toward the end of the novel there's this one little line that's always given me a bit of an allergy. The stockbroker mystic character, a man by the name of Larry Diamond, is talking to you, the protagonist, and asks you to consider every decision as if it were a choice between two paper bags, one containing a pepperoni and one containing a turd. And I quote, "If every time we choose a turd, society at great expense simply allows us to redeem it for a pepperoni, then not only will we never learn to make smart choices, we will also surrender the freedom to choose, because a choice without consequences is no choice at all." End quote. People familiar with my work may have spotted my allergy already, because this little thought experiment is a classic bit of reactionary logic. We see it again and again in discussions of social programs that seek to support those in need. You may hear it in some form or another if someone wants to argue against things like welfare, food assistance, and universal health care, without sounding like they simply hate us smelly plebs. They argue that we working class people need the motivation for survival to keep us laboring at our various jobs. And if we improved social services, perfected the safety net, or simply
redistributed those memes,
we would all just sit at home pretending to be Spoots McGooderman all day. We are animals, they say. We need the primal satisfaction of besting the old reaper by selling hours of our lives to bosses and states for a fraction of what even a minute of human consciousness is worth. You know, like all those other animals do. Simply put, I don't buy it. In the story, Larry Diamond, the globe-trotting mystic, started out as a stockbroker, the best in the Pacific Northwest. His whole world was buy or sell, up or down, pepperoni or turd. His entire working life essentially boiled down to learning how to make good choices according to a certain rubric, and executing those choices skillfully on a time crunch repeatedly. That is a skill set that any gamer, even a filthy casual like me, can appreciate. But claiming that market-like competition is the only way that humans learn to make good choices or develop competency is precisely wrong. Competition can be an effective educational tool, but it's hardly the only one. Competition molded our ancestors, it's true, but so did mutual aid. And where are all the cool, hip think pieces about how mutual aid is a factor of evolutionary psychology? I see your lobster, professor, and raise you one troop of bonobos. The kind of self-interested reward structures that incentivize people to do straightforward tasks also completely fall apart for even simple creative tasks. And yes, Ben, we have the science, but I'm afraid you're going to have to read it for yourself. My head hit the wall. Oh, God. Seriously, though, what do some people have against those of us who want to play this life thing on collab mode? Does wanting abundance for all with no strings attached really make me less ambitious than someone like Jeff Bezos?
Bullshit.
The way I see it, I'm even more ambitious. I want everybody to live, thrive, and self-actualize, not just people who own Prime accounts, Alexa devices, or real estate on Mars. And if, like me, you're working towards fully automated, eco-feminist, luxury, queer, anarchist communism on Earth and in space, then you're already more ambitious than Jeff by a mile, in my book. This thought experiment with the pepperoni and the turd also helpfully sidelines any discussion of structural inequality, the self-perpetuating and codependent systems of generational wealth and poverty, the many biases and Byzantine multi-layered exploitation that keeps the whole system ticking over. Presumably, if you brought any of that up, Diamond would simply say, everybody has a sob story, which is one of his catchphrases, and fellow switches will recognize that as a classic hand wave for those kinds of problems.
Life's not fair, bucko. You don't have any damn control over these things. You don't. And if you try to change that, you're bloody well stolen. You know what you can control, huh? Your room.
It's true. Life isn't fair, but interestingly, free market big boys and rational right men don't often like to admit just how true that fact is. Let's look again at the odd little thought experiment. Why not 3 bags? Why only 2? Even if you guessed or flipped a coin, requiring no competence, no competitive edge, you'd still be right half the time. So, why not 10 bags? Or 18? Or 1,000? What if we didn't let people look inside the bags, pick them up, shake, or sniff them before choosing? What if we only let some people do that? And why put out a pepperoni every single time, especially when turds are so cheap? You think the market owes you a pepperoni? Do you? Huh. Jeez, some people. The market does not owe you a truly good option. Some people will only ever be offered various pepperoni, while most of us have to sort through a million superficially different turds, each aggressively marketed as a pepperoni. And even if competition were the best way to get people motivated, though it's not, where is it written in stone that the competition needs to have such high stakes to be effective? Who said that we need to be threatened with poverty or death to consent to labor? Couldn't we create a system where we compete for non-essentials only and collaborate on our needs? Why not take care of everyone, reduce necessary labor time, and create opportunities for more public sports, games, and contests? That way people can learn to struggle and strive if they want to, but with full and free access to the necessaries and comforts of life either way. I can't deny the fun and brinksmanship of wheeling and dealing, but that doesn't mean that it serves some primal need from my antediluvian forebears or something, and it certainly doesn't mean that I'll only be a good entrepreneur if it's a choice between that or starvation. We could play out our competitive itches for fun and bragging rights, and all go home assured that win or lose, there's a pepperoni in the fridge. There is no choice without consequences, and to claim that a single social policy or even a revolutionary program could eliminate consequence itself and therefore freedom is absurd. Whether reformist or revolutionary, leftism is about eliminating unjust conditions. In a system of distributed abundance and distributed power, our choices and their consequences will simply be different. How could it be otherwise? We've never known life outside of some unjustified hierarchy or another, and most of us are ruled by several at once. We can't eliminate all choice and consequence, nor do we want to. We simply aim to make the worst consequences impossible, or at least as easy to avoid as possible. Working class people should not support or defend a system that mandates and enforces our preventable suffering and death. The Fash for Brains and the Lobster Legions have been trying these same tired lines as Larry Diamond lo these many years, but they're not as effective as they used to be. The cutesy thought experiments about invisible hands, shrugging titans, or the pepperoni and the turd are wearing thin. We see now that successful people telling plebs to just make better choices are kind of like the gamer who knows all the cheat codes telling the noob to just get good. More and more people are looking beyond the platitudes of corporate pundits and self-help gurus to grasp the shocking truth. It's an insult to our dignity that we've allowed capitalism to snooker us for this long. So, what is to be done? Oh, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Special thanks to Curio and BlackGoat666 for looking over the script and giving me some very helpful pointers. Definitely check out each of their channels. They got some wonderful content. And let's collaborate again. Longtime friends might like to know that I'm selling some merch. You can find it in the link below, as well as my Patreon account if you feel like supporting me on an ongoing basis. Every little bit helps because advertising doesn't make this possible. You can find links to my music and also to my band, the King's Busketeers, down in the description. I'm sure you already know what to do if you want to help the channel grow, and I sincerely hope that you will. So thank you very much for all of your support, and I can't wait to see what we come out with next time. It'll be as much a surprise to me as it is to you. Bye-bye.